You all right?
Good afternoon, Chair.
You all right?
Yeah. Do you want to read out the information? I think Mark sent you again yesterday, didn't he?
Can I welcome all members and officers to the meeting of the Development Control Committee? Also, can I give a big warm welcome to the ex-mayor, Stewart, and also Altaf. Nice to see you both. Due to the government's advice to participate social distancing, this will be a virtual development control meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed following the meeting. If during the meeting a technical error occurs with the transmission, which cannot be resolved within a reasonable period of time, then the meeting will be closed and the remaining business will be deferred to the subsequently meeting of the Development Control Committee on a date to be determined. The new date will be notified by publication of the agenda on the Council's website. Everyone participating in this meeting will be accessing the meeting from remote locations. Please could everyone ensure that their mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members will receive an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking will switch on their cameras at this point. I would ask, but with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference and to ensure that connection remains as stable as possible. If members and officers wish to raise a point or a question, they should use the instant messaging IM icon in the bottom left-hand side of the window. Simply type speak and I will come to you in order. I receive the request. Please do not use a microphone until I invite you to do so. In the event that the committee requires to vote on any item of business before it or at the meeting, the Democratic Service Officer will in turn announce the names of every committee member present. I will ask him to cast a vote for, against, or abstain verbally. On the conclusion of this process, I'll ask the legal officer to announce the result of the vote and the decision made by the committee. The committee will be supported by planner and library officers, and the legal officer from the Democratic Services will be supporting the committee and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and when necessary remove those not being used. Before we finally commence, I will now ask the officer from the Democratic Services to announce the names of the councillors in attendance at this meeting. I would also ask the officers to introduce themselves and as when invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. When you're ready, Mark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members today are Councillor Altaf Hussain, Councillor Amanda Williams, Councillor Keith Edwards, Councillor David Lewis, Councillor Gary Thomas as Chair, Councillor James Radcliffe, Councillor Janice Lewis, Councillor John Spanswick, Councillor John Paul Blundell, Councillor Kenneth Watts, Councillor Mike Kern, Councillor Richard Collins, Councillor Richard Granville, Councillor Ross Sturman, Councillor Stuart Baldwin, and Councillor Matthew Voisey. For the purpose of the recording, Chair, my name is Mark Galvin. I'm Senior Democratic Service Officer Committees, and I'll be taking the minute, and Kevin Stevens will be backing up on electronics. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. We'll go to the general. Apologies for absence, please, Mark. Mark? Is he there? He was there.
I don't know, Chair. I don't think we had received any apologies unless members have any to give now.
You have lost it then.
Chair, they just did now.
Right.
Amanda Williams give apologies for somebody.
Caroline
Sorry,
Webster.
Chair, I lost connection there. Apologies from Caroline Webster. Sorry, Chair.
Thank you very much. No other apologies?
Chair,
Yes, I've just commented. Thanks.
yeah, there's a chair. Is an apology for Councillor Dendy?
Roz?
I've just given apologies for Sorrel Dendy because I think she's having internet access issues as well.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks very much. Right. Any declarations of interest, please? Officers and members. Anyone? Stuart, like to speak, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just declaring a personal interest in relation to agenda item 7 because I'm also a member of Bridgend Town Council.
Thank you. Hang on, Rod? He can't speak, or can he?
Yes, Chair, it's only personal.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll be speaking,
Okay, so
Gary.
that's not a problem.
if you wish. Keith, please. Good afternoon to you.
Excuse me. Yeah, agenda item 8, Chair. A personal interest as I've been dealing with this case on behalf of the applicant.
That's number 12 Crown Row, is it?
Yes.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you.
Sorry, was that personal only, Chair? I beg your pardon, I didn't hear properly. Councillor Edwards, was that a personal only declaration?
Personal only, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Number 3, approve the minutes, please. Can I move in a second, please?
I'll formally move, Chair.
Second.
Second.
In favour?
Aye.
Thank you. There are no public speakers today. And there's no amendment sheet. Right. Number 6, that's the guidance. Number 7, 66 Norton Street, Bridgend. I think it's Rod. You taking this, Rod?
Yes, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members.
Thank you.
For the purposes of the recording, my name is Roger Davis, Development and Building Control Manager. I'll take you through the 3 agenda items today. The scheme is referred to Planning Committee to consider the objections raised and further to a call in by Councillor Boise. The application seeks permission to change the use of a vacant shop on Norton Street to an A3 hot food takeaway. The application site is located on the western side of Norton Street opposite the junction with Edward Street. The premises is currently vacant. However, the previous use was as a second-hand store. It lies within the sub-regional centre of Bridgend, which is recognised as being a focus for retailing, cultural and leisure activities within the county borough. In terms of a concentration of similar uses, particularly hot food takeaways, Supplementary Planning Guidance Notes 14, hot food takeaway establishments, states that each planning application for hot food takeaway establishments in the county borough will continue to be treated on their own merits, with primary consideration being given to the policies in the adopted development plan and the provisions of the Supplementary Planning Guidance Note. Where clusters of hot food takeaway establishments arise, the effects on residential amenity can be compounded to an unacceptable level. Note 5 of the SPG advises that in location category 3 areas, such as this one, the local planning authority will seek to prevent developments that would result in new or exacerbate existing clusters of hot food takeaway establishments, which would have an unacceptably adverse impact on local residential amenity. Approximately 9 of the 65 commercial units on either side of the road are hot food takeaway establishments. This additional takeaway facility will result in around 15% of the units along this particular section of Norton Street, which does not constitute a cluster or an over-concentration of similar uses, having an overly adverse impact on local residential amenity, particularly having regard to advice from public protection and the proposed opening hours of the hot food takeaway. Members will have noted that the unit is vacant, and an important consideration in this case is the detrimental effect of an empty commercial unit on the vitality and attractiveness of this part of an important sub-regional centre in the county borough. There are also a number of other vacant ground floor units in the immediate area, and it is considered that the occupation of this shop unit will add to the level of interest and activity at street level throughout the day and evening in compliance with policy SP2 of the LDP. The SPG advises that A3 uses in mixed-use locations such as this one should not be open to customers later than 1 AM. The premises that's being applied for would operate between 9 AM and 11 PM at the latest. The highways officers confirmed that the proposal will result in a nil detriment situation in traffic generation terms, and there are adequate and enforceable parking restrictions within the parking laybys along Northland Street, both during the daytime and in the night. This will ensure that any parking generated by the proposal does not result in a detrimental impact or a highway safety concern. Public Protection section considered that the information submitted in terms of fume extraction and odour abatement is satisfactory in terms of preserving the residential amenities of the area, particularly as the majority of homes are on the opposite side of the street along Edward Street and to the west of this unit behind an established high brick wall at Chapel Street. It is considered that, on balance, the reuse of an empty ground floor unit as a commercial establishment in a part of a designated sub-regional centre that has a relatively high vacancy rate when compared to the remainder of Norton Street and the town centre will contribute to the vitality and attractiveness of the centre without resulting in an over-concentration of similar uses in one particular area. Thank you, Chair.
Speakers, please. Matthew, Councillor Bowsy, please.
Thank you, Chair. When we saw this application, we, Councillor Ward and myself, were concerned about the burden of hot food takeaways. Now, clearly, having read the report, we are a little bit surprised, but clearly it's not, according to the policy, overburdened. So obviously, other concerns that we had were about the times of operation, which I think have been adequately dealt with, and also issues regarding disposal of particularly fat into the water, effluent drainage. And I think, once again, that's been dealt with in the officer's report. So in terms of my issues that I had in reporting this, I feel the report has covered those. One thing I wanted to ask the officers, I probably know the answer, but the timings given for the operation of these premises, can they come back at a future date and request later opening, or would it really be conditional that those are the hours and that they can't come back later to have longer hours? Because obviously that is one of the considerations. I do note that obviously another particular premises is burnt down that had this type of permission, so I suppose it's one in, one out. But I am concerned that they'll come back later and ask for an extension to the operating hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Rod, when you're ready, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor. Yes, that's a good point. It's, at the minute, the operator is proposing limited opening times, and we've attached to the recommendation. We've got a condition restricting it to those opening times. If someone comes in at a later date, and as you're all aware, members, any other takeaway could operate in that same premises without the need for planning permission. But because we've got that restriction on the times, they would have to apply to extend that if they wish to extend it. In that instance, we would review it again and assess it on the basis of any impact on the residential amenity of that area. But as I mentioned in the presentation, and it's in the report as well, it is technically in a category 3 area, mixed use area, where there's a combination of some residential and commercial properties, and the SPG does indicate that the cut-off point is 1 AM. luckily in this instance, this is what the operator is hoping to operate to is 11 p.m. at the latest. So we have conditioned it to that, and hopefully it will be a success. It's a type of takeaway as well. It probably lends itself to those times rather than later on. So it's going to be a fish and chip shop, as far as I understand. So we're hoping it'll be a success in this area, and there won't be any pressure to exceed those hours as we've approved.
Thank you, Rod. All right, Councillor.
Thank you. I'm just concerned of planning creep. That's all. Thank you.
Nothing else, Councillor?
No, that's it. That's answered my questions. And
Councillor Radcliffe, please.
Yeah, hello. It's just a quick question. In the report, it says 15% of the units on this section of the street are takeaways, and that doesn't constitute a concentration. I'm just wondering what percentage would be defined as a concentration of takeaways.
Thank you, Councillor. Rod, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Radcliffe. Yeah, it's not hard and fast, unfortunately. There's no specific threshold. It depends on the nature of the commercial centre, and in smaller retailing areas, district centres, etc., if a small amount could constitute a cluster. In big areas like Norton Street and the remainder of Bridgend Retail Centre, it could be a lot higher. But we do acknowledge that there are a number of takeaways in this part of Norton Street, and there are also a few vacant units in there as well. So we've taken a view that it's not got to the point where it has become a street of takeaways only, and we've balanced that with the need to get some commercial activity into some of these vacant units as well. So what you'd be looking at, if you're looking for thresholds, you're thinking really if it got up to the 20-25% mark of the whole street, I consider that would get to a point where it obviously is becoming a predominant use in that particular commercial area then. So we'll keep a close eye on it, and bearing in mind that if we did look to refuse it on those grounds, we'd have to have the evidence for that. But we would look at that again if say another 2 or 3 takeaways happen to want to open up on Norton Street, then we'd have to look at it at that point as the potential over concentration of similar uses in a particular small area. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Councillor.
Yep, fine.
Thank you.
Chair, it needs to be moved and seconded, please.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it in now. Can I have a move and a seconder, please?
Move.
Officer recommendation.
Move.
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item 8, number 12, Crown Row, my sake, please. Rod again.
Thank you, Chair. The application seeks retrospective planning permission for the retention of a new timber fence on top of an existing boundary wall to the side and rear of 12 Crown Road, my stake. The overall height of the fence is approximately 1.95 metres, and it wraps around the private outdoor amenity area of the property. The fence is already in place and has been erected to the side and rear of the property to provide privacy to the garden of the dwelling as it fronts the main highway. The application is referred to committee to enable consideration of the objections received from local residents. The main considerations in the assessment of this development are its impact on the character and appearance of the property and the wider street scene, as well as its impact on neighbouring residential amenities and highway safety. The fence lies in close proximity to the main highway and occupies a prominent corner position along Bridgend Road. It is admittedly highly visible within the street scene, however its visual impact is reduced by the existing stone wall that it sets behind, and it is considered that its design and scale is domestic in nature and appearance. It is considered that the overall height of the fence along the rear boundary of the site should be reduced due to highway safety concerns so that it matches the height of the existing side wall. However, the location of the fence is not considered to have a significant adverse impact on the amount of light received by any of the neighbouring properties. As well as a reduction in height of part of the fence, there is also a requirement to convert the rear element of the fence to a gate to allow private vehicles associated with the property to park on site rather than in the adjacent turning head, which lies at the end of a dead-end road. The application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I move in a second, please?
Move.
Second.
Second.
In favour?
Aye.
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 Sorry, Gary, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah. Once you finish, could you knock your camera off after, please? You can put it back on if you're speaking.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, just looking at this, I was a little bit confused until I read into it why it needed permission. But there was a couple of points. Obviously, the issue of the loss of the on-site parking, but also in the picture shown for the interior of the fence. I just wanted to know. I'm not an engineer, but from a safety point of view, the fence has been attached to the wall rather than into the ground, and I just wondered whether the wall, if the wind would cause an issue with structural integrity of the wall and potentially act as a sail and potentially bring the wall into the pavement and cause an issue. I just wondered whether the fence should actually be secured by posts in the ground rather than the wall, and therefore whether there's a potential safety issue if it was to blow into the pavement.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. I must admit I hadn't noticed that.
Before you start, my father built that wall. Our next doors.
I'm sure it's a very good wall when it was built, but over time, the structural integrity, I'm just concerned that it could, I've seen instances where walls have been brought down by vegetation being blown in the wind, and it does create a sail effect with that attached to it. And there's potential that it could blow onto the pavement, it could blow into the garden if the wall isn't structurally intact.
I come in there, Chair, if you like.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Parsons, Group Manager, Planning and Development Services. There's a good point raised by Councillor Voisey. Yes, we're all aware of prevailing wind conditions in Bridgend and in South Wales in general. It is a risk for properties. I think really in this case the planning sort of merits are really focused around the sort of highway safety and visual impact. I think if we were to sort of try to stray into matters of safety, we'd be overstepping our bounds slightly. I think it's probably the householder's responsibility to ensure that the structure is safe, as with any development, with any wall or fence. It's the owner's responsibility. So I don't think there's anything we can do in planning to ensure that that's constructed differently. But if it does cause a problem in the future, then there are other legislative and statutory functions that the authority could employ to ensure that it's made safe. So if the wall is leaning or into the highway, then we could look at it in a different sort of legislation. But I think for this particular application, it's the focus is really on its visual impact and any highway safety issues.
Thank you, Jonathan. Councillor Bose, you all right?
Yeah, fine, thanks.
Stuart, like to speak, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just a question for officers. I'm looking at the second set of photographs where Councillor Voisey's highlighted that it's attached to the wall, and one of the issues that's been raised is in relation to the increased parking on the highway. But on closer inspection of the photograph to the right-hand side, where the for want of a better word, the fence is onto the grass, there doesn't look to have been evidence of previous occupants parking within that garden. So do we have evidence that there would be increased parking onto the highway?
Rod, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. We have evidence that cars are being parked in that turning head at the minute, actually, and obviously with the shape of that wall as was, obviously if you can imagine it without the fence there, there was an opening in the stone wall there, which would have allowed the possibility of the occupier to park at least one of their cars on site rather than within that turning area. So that's what highways are trying to achieve, is to at least, we obviously can't force them to park in there, but at least we got the ability, if we've got a gate there instead of just a solid fence, that they could utilise that, or if someone else moved into that property, they could utilise that as an on-site parking area rather than relying on off-site and on-street parking provision, which is a turning head for the benefit of the whole street. So we're trying to get cars off the road effectively and keep them onto the property itself, which a few of the properties in that terrace do have access onto their backs of their properties. So that's what we're trying to encourage. We can't lead a horse to water and force them to drink, but at least there'll be that provision there available for them to do it.
Thank you, Rod. All right, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We've got no more speakers. We've had to move in a second now. All in favour?
Formally moved, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Aye.
Item 9, 63 Pendray, Bridgend, please. And Rod, don't go away. It's you next again.
Thanks, Chair. Just get the presentation up, 2 seconds. Right. This application seeks consent to change the use of the dwelling to a small house in multiple occupation. It is proposed to use the existing 3 bedrooms on the first floor and convert the reception room on the ground floor to a 4th bedroom. The lounge area, kitchen and bathroom will remain as they are, and no external alterations are proposed to the property. The application is referred to committee to consider the objections received. The proposal will contribute to the overall housing supply and introduces an important element of flexibility into the housing market. Pendray and the surrounding streets have a mixture of house types, and it is considered that the conversion of this dwelling to a small HMO would provide an alternative type of living accommodation in the locality, whilst not harmfully or significantly eroding the character and appearance of the existing area as a whole. The essential character of the area and the amenities of the locality would not be so adversely impacted to warrant a recommendation to refuse the planning application in this regard, given that the proposal is for a single HMO, which would not result in an undue concentration of incompatible uses in this particular location. Each of the 4 bedrooms will have a satisfactory outlook with appropriate habitable room space and kitchen bathroom facilities. The building benefits from a side garden and a hard standing that would provide a form of external amenity space. The visual appearance of the property will not be altered as a result of the development. The proposed use of the premises as a small HMO would not unreasonably compromise the residential amenities currently enjoyed by neighbouring occupiers, as the level of activity and other likely effects of the use would not significantly exceed what would be expected from a normal family dwelling. Given that there is only an increase of 1 additional bedroom, it is considered that the change of use is acceptable in traffic generation terms. 3 off-street parking spaces will be provided for the premises. This application is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rod. Any speakers, please? I got no speakers.
I'll formally move a recommendation, Chair.
Second, please.
Second.
Second.
All in favour of the recommendation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Item 10, please. Appeals. Jonathan, when you're ready, please.
Chair, can I formally move we accept the appeals?
You got a second over there?
Second that.
I got it. Jonathan,
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you on to this report.
The report is there, and the appeal decision notices are there also. There's nothing in there that I would highlight as being of any significant policy concern or anything that's unusual. I'm quite happy to take questions from any members that may have any queries on any one of those decisions.
Any questions, please? No questions? All right. Move on now to item 11, replacement and local development plan update. Gareth, please.
Thank you, Chair. For the purpose of the recording, my name is Gareth Denning and I'm the Strategic Planning Policy Team Leader. The purpose of this report is just to update the Development Control Committee on the local development plan in light of a letter received from Julie James, the Minister for Housing and Local Government. The Minister wrote to all local planning authorities on the 24th of September regarding the end date of local development plans, and the Minister confirmed in a letter that LDPs adopted prior to the 4th of January 2016 will remain extant and will continue to form the basis for determining planning applications until they have been replaced by a new LDP. Now, our LDP was adopted in 2013 and would ordinarily expire at the end of 2021. But what the Minister's letter confirms is that it will continue to be the development plan until our replacement plan is adopted, which will be sometime in 2022. Now, this might raise the question of why should we continue to prepare a new plan, and the report essentially goes on to explain all the reasons why it's imperative that we continue to do so. So the bold text from 3.5 onwards essentially teases out the key issue in that the existing LDP is approaching its sell-by date. It's now 7 years old, eight next year, and some of the policies are beginning to show their age, and the evidence base behind them is even older than the plan itself. In the meantime, there have been changes in the county borough that need to be accounted for in the plan. There have been changes to national planning policy that also need to be accounted for, and we no longer have sufficient sites allocated in the plan to meet the land use requirements of the county borough going forward. This all means that the material weight that we can attach to the existing LDP will progressively diminish from 2021 onwards, and will place the council in a position where we could be open to challenge from the development industry. So whilst the Minister's letter does confirm that the existing plan will remain the basis for determining planning applications until it's replaced, that fact alone doesn't override the urgent need to address the shortfall in the county borough's housing land supply and to refresh the evidence base and policies in the plan. And at 3.9, I've just highlighted that the Welsh Government has advised that it's of a paramount importance that we make progress on the replacement plan to ensure that we have an up-to-date development plan as the basis for assessing planning applications, for preventing speculative planning applications, to ensure sustainable economic growth, to assist in the post-COVID recovery, and to ensure delivery of affordable housing and critical new infrastructure. So the recommendation is at section 8, which is that members of the committee note the contents of the report and the advice from Welsh Government that it is of paramount importance that progress on the replacement plan continues at a pace should be followed. Thank you,
Gareth. Any speakers, please?
Can just move the report, please, Chair, for information.
Councillor Watts, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just a quick one to Gareth. What progress are, in fact, we making to meet the needs of the Welsh office there as regards to making progress, please?
Well, last month we brought the revised delivery, 2 months ago, sorry, we brought a revised delivery agreement to DC committee to seek approval to adjust the timescale due to the delay caused by the pandemic. Welsh Government have now agreed that revised delivery agreement, which shows that we will be seeking to go out to consult on our deposit plan at some point between January and March of next year. And that the programme that follows on from that builds in essentially a 6-month delay caused by the pandemic, which will seek to adopt a new plan at some point in mid-2022. So officers of the Planning Policy Section are doing all they can to ensure that those timescales are achieved. We're constantly in touch with officers from Welsh Government who are content with the progress we're making, and we'll continue to update DC committee as to progress on the plan as and when we feel it's necessary.
Thank you, Gareth.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Chair.
Amanda Williams, please. Councillor Williams.
Hiya, just a quick one as well. I know that when we worked on the Section 106s for the new development plan, we've increased the amount that should be given to us by construction companies. Are we happy that we're not going to get an influx of building or plans coming in before this deadline, and then we'll be stuck with not receiving the right amount of funding for things such as schools? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the whole purpose that we progressed the work on new draft SPGs for education and public open space in particular was that we could factor in the new rates and the new formulas for calculating the contributions with regards to the sites that have been put forward for inclusion in the new plan. Those rates have been passed on to developers promoting those sites for them to accommodate within their viability appraisals. We're confident that they won't come forward ahead of time, so to speak, because a lot of those sites are on sites that aren't currently allocated in the existing LDP, so they will be out of accord with the existing LDP and essentially will need the new LDP to be in place before their sites can be considered to be in accordance with it and for them to be judged capable of achieving planning permission. So we're working alongside promoters of those sites. We've informed them of the new rates in the draft SPGs, and it may be that at the point that we do go out to consult on the deposit plan, that may provide the opportunity to formally adopt those draft SPGs.
Okay. All right, Councillor.
Yes, thank you very much.
I got no more speakers. Madam, moving a second. All in favour?
Yep. Councillor Spanswick, Chair.
Here he comes, John. Thank you, John. You next, then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just following on from Councillor Amanda Williams there, very good point. I just wondered, I'm not sure if Gareth might have said confirmed at the end, can an SPG be adopted in any case, a revised one, before we adopt the LDP? So, could we adopt the education and open space SPG like as soon as possible next year? Is that possible?
Thank you, Gareth.
Thanks, Councillor. It's a good question. What we're trying to ensure is that we don't go through the process of adopting an SPG based on the policies in the existing LDP and then have to go through the same quite resource-intensive process of going through drafting a new SPG to fit with the policies of the replacement LDP. So that's why I referred to perhaps when we go out to consult on the deposit plan, it gives us the opportunity to look at adopting the SPG at that point when we will be more confident of what the policies will be in the new plan.
All right, okay, Johnson. John?
Thanks for that. Yep, that makes sense.
Thank you, Gareth.
Chair, I'll formally move the recommendation.
Second. Have I got a seconder, please?
Second.
All in favour?
Hello. Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item 12, endorsement of the Regional Technical Statement 2020. Lewis, please.
Thank you, Chair.
For the purposes of recording, my name is Lewis Pennell. I'm Senior Development Planning Officer. Hi everyone. So the purpose of this report is to seek endorsement of the Regional Technical Statement in order to meet the requirements of national planning policy and agree the progression of the Statement of Sub-Regional Collaboration. Minerals Technical Advice Note 1 requires the preparation of regional technical statements so that areas covered by both the South Wales and North Wales regional aggregates working parties. The original regional technical statement documents for both regions were completed in 2008 and are required to be reviewed every 5 years. This is the second review and were commenced in 2018 and will ensure that any major changes to supply and demand can be addressed and the statement can be changed or modified as appropriate. The second review methodology has been tweaked and has made an attempt to reflect planned future requirements for housing construction activity and to avoid perpetuating historical supply patterns in areas where there is scope to encourage more sustainable patterns of supply. So South Wales has been split into 7 sub-regions which reflect distinct market areas, and Bridgend has been grouped within the Cardiff City sub-region. Each sub-region is required to prepare a statement of sub-regional collaboration to confirm that all local planning authorities within a particular sub-region accept the individual apportionments for aggregates for their individual authority areas. So Bridgend, through the LDP process, is required to meet the apportionments set out in the statement, and the total requirement is for 17.471 million tonnes of crushed rock over the next 25 years. However, Bridgend has a surplus of existing permitted reserves in the region of 27.27 million tonnes of crushed rock to put towards this requirement. So there's no implications for Bridgend or no further allocations for future working to be identified within the local development plan. So the recommendation is that the contents of the regional technical statement are noted and is reported to Council for endorsement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lewis. Could I move in a second, please?
I'll formally move that, Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Oh, concentrate. Right. I got no more speakers. Thank you very much. Right. I got no more other business.
Chair, if with your permission, perhaps I can come in with a bit on
Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's no training log on the report, and I just wanted to sort of answer concerns that members may have that we're not doing member training anymore. That's not the case. When some people may be pleased to hear that. It's just that we're looking at alternative ways of supplying the training, and it's how we've traditionally done this over the last couple of years, last decade or so, is that we've tried to coincide member training with planning committees and planning committee dates, and there was a good reason for that. It was because all members were together usually at that time. But as we're doing things virtually, and it looks like virtual meetings are going to be with us for a little while yet, we don't really need to be tied to planning committees to do training sessions. So I've been speaking to Cabinet Services on this matter, and we will look to restart the training programme before the end of this year, and we've got a few subject areas we want to cover with you as members, and we'll do this in a sort of a workshop style. So we're not restricted to an hour. We could have it maybe 2 hours for one session, maybe an hour for another, or maybe a bit longer if it's a subject is worthy of it. So we'll look to get some sessions into the calendar. The first thing that we want to cover with you members is perhaps an update, sort of a national and regional update on planning matters. There's quite a bit going on. We've got the National Development Framework is coming forward early next year. We've got other issues such as corporate joint committees, which will have an impact on how strategic planning is carried out. And there are a few other sort of policy changes, particularly around the area of town centres and so forth. We also need to talk to you as well, members, about future proposals for looking to introduce planning performance agreements into Bridgend. And for those of you members not aware, planning performance agreement, or PPA, is an agreement between the authority and the developer, mainly for major schemes that we agree the process and the time frames for determining planning applications. And also there's the potential of having additional income to cover issues that would not normally be picked up by the normal planning fee. So with a very large development, it could tie up a number of key officers for a considerable period of time, but the developer may be able to offset that cost by providing us with additional resource to backfill those posts. So it is a bit of it does create extra revenue for the service and funding the service going forward. We really seriously got to look at that as we go into next year. So these are just proposals at the moment, and we'll put a proper report together and bring it to members. I should imagine probably in December planning committee, so we will probably want to speak to you in a sort of workshop format before we do that. So we'll look to get some dates together, and of course any other subject that members feel that they would like to have extra training on, and we can also program that in. And we could do this on a sort of a 6-weekly basis, or 2 months, every 2 months, or even more often than that, depending on need. But I just thought I'd better update you on that, because it does seem that the training sort of log has sort of depleted over the last couple of committees. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Johnson. Well, there is no other business. I'd like to thank you members for attending today, especially our chapter steward and new members, and also it's nice to see the planning officer, Lewis. And you take care all and stay safe.